The police state ends with me. We've made it one more day. If you're saying to yourself, this guy's crazy, whistleblowing like this on the internet, talking bad about the Bartlesville police and Washington County of Oklahoma government, doesn't he know they're going to come down hard on him for doing that, for whistleblowing? If you're saying that to yourself, then you just made my point. If the First Amendment and truthful statements are not allowed against the government, and the police is the lethal arm of the government allowed to use deadly force, if you're not allowed to make these statements and the First Amendment doesn't matter, then it is a police state. And let's not forget, of course, their bosses, the large corporations. If you're thinking that to yourself, then you answered the question, you've made my point, that it is a police state and you know it. If you think I'll get in trouble for these video posts, then you have made my point. You can see that, right? I mean, you can see that if you're sitting there going, ooh, I wouldn't do that, doesn't he know he's going to get into trouble? Then you know it is a police state. You know it is. I mean, but sure, of course, they're going to come down on me. That's the point of these videos, to document their illegal acts, as they will likely kill me for this, and just because they can. They are corrupt, but someone has to stand up and say no more. Period. No more. No more. Now, socially, you can say, well, I don't like this guy, he's an idiot for talking this way. Fine. You know, I don't care what you think, or at least I try not to care what people think. I am human, but if you have that point of view that these things shouldn't be said and it should be illegal to say them and the police state should come down on me for saying them, then I sure as hell don't care what you think. Okay? I'm not asking for your approval. I'm not asking for your disapproval. But again, if you say I shouldn't do it due to the Bartlesville police and government reaction to my free speech, then you already know what I'm saying is true. You've made my point. And if you say I shouldn't be able to voice this topic, then you don't believe in the USA or the rights of our Constitution. So you should just think about that. If you just think that speech should be covered up and people should shut up, then you really need to think again. You already know we live in a police state, and you fear retaliation because you know it is real. The Bartlesville police are the biggest roaming gang in town, and they will come down on anyone they want to, with no oversight and no consequences and many, many guns. Look at their Facebook page, Bartlesville Police. It's them all standing out there with their guns. I mean, what are they saying? They're saying force, lethal force. Freedom. Look really good. I mean, what it is the Constitution looks really good on paper, and those civil rights written down mean nothing to the police state. I mean, like I said, they look good on paper, but as long as the police state ignores your civil rights, you have no rights. You have absolutely nothing. Like what happened to me. They can simply come to your house like Nazis and tear your house apart with 5 police officers with guns and the DA, and they could just laugh and leave after they torn your house up. I mean, how is that any different than a third world country? How is that any different than any Nazi or Stalin's, or how is it different? It's not different. This is a police state in the worst sense. And we've got to wrap our minds around that. And lots of people that have experienced this know it, and the ones that haven't don't want to believe it, but you're going to have to, because you or a friend or someone you know or your children, again, if this is the police state now, what's it going to be in 20 years? This has got to come to an end. And it will. Google Bartlesville police and beatings or excessive force or civil rights violations. You'll see they have quite a history for a small town of about 36,000 people in a county of only about 52,000. They have quite the reputation of excessive force, civil rights violations, and treating citizens as enemy combatants, beating handcuffed citizens, abusing people, and the district attorney then blaming the citizen, taking them to court and losing. People getting beaten by these people. Let alone what also occurs, which is they just say, well, you're a criminal, but then they don't charge you or arrest you and just steal your property and then use it for personal use. They couldn't care less about your civil rights because they are never held accountable, and public funds are spent for private use by those so-called leaders of this county, as I've explained in a prior video. Now again, if this is the police state now, what's it going to be 20 years from now for your children? You or a friend or your kids will experience it. I, for one, say no more. Though the outcome for me is likely to be awful, I do not want to live in a police state, and I won't bend for it, even if it breaks me in two. No more. No bending for the police state. The police state ends with me. And again, I want to point out what I'm going through is awful, completely unacceptable, and not livable. But I believe it is about 1% of what minority folks and communities encounter in this corrupt police state. I don't know how you stand it. You're tougher than me, and I don't pretend that what I'm going through, my experience even remotely matches what minorities are going through in this police state. However, even what I'm going through is too much, and it must stop. And with that said, I'll see you tomorrow.